So now I'm going to move into chapter 7, and chapter 7 deals with trade and cash discounts. And just to explain what these are, before we were just trying to find percentages in chapter 6 and portions of different numbers or different values. Now we're going to be actually dealing with some very popular and important business arrangements that you might make with other companies, especially if you're going to buy products at bulk rate or from a wholesaler. You want to get a discount on that, right? I mean, if you're a retailer and you're buying products that you're going to be reselling, you want to be able to buy those products at a lower price. So that way you can then turn around and charge retail price and make profit. And so that's why we have wholesalers and we have distributors and things like that, because they offer you discounts. And those two different discounts that they offer are called trade and cash discounts. So a trade discount is a discount when you buy things in bulk. So again, I might buy 500 of them. And so because I bought 500, you're going to give me a 20% discount on the whole batch. And so that way I can then turn around and add 15% and still undercut the retail price or whatever it is I want to do. So that's what a trade discount is. It's pretty much a flat percentage off of a large amount that I'm granted that allows me then again to be able to mark up and resell and still make money. So that's really the idea of trade discounts, and companies will offer that when you buy in bulk. Typically, they'll offer that on some kind of terms where you purchase it with a certain amount of period that you promise to pay it back. So that's trade discounts. Cash discounts are just that. Basically, you might say, well, okay, I'm going to give you a 25% discount on this bulk order, but if you pay it off in an earlier amount of time than maybe the 30 or 60 or 90 days that I'm going to originally give you, if you pay it off in a short amount of time, I'll give you an additional percentage off. And that is what we call a cash discount. This is where you're given an incentive to pay off your purchase orders or your accounts payable a little quicker. So that way, the person who sold it to you gets the cash that they want a little quicker. And of course, cash is king. If you don't have enough cash, you can be a millionaire in assets, but if you have no cash as a part of those assets, you can be in big, deep trouble and have to file bankruptcy because you have to have cash. So sometimes companies want you to pay them as soon as you can in cash. And if you do it sooner than later, they'll give you a discount to do it. And that is what we call a cash discount. So what you're looking at on your screen is an invoice. It's kind of a typical looking purchase order invoice that a company might issue. In this case, it's JM Hardware Supply. And if you notice down there, they bought 16 cases of masking tape, 1/2 inch. They bought 12 cases of masking tape, 1.5 inch, it looks like. They bought 26 boxes of reflective 2-inch reflective tape, and they bought 37 cases of assorted sandpaper. So this would be a typical invoice of maybe what you purchased. And so what you'd need to do, of course, is every one of those cases, the first one, masking tape 1/2 inch, is $21.90. So you'd have to multiply $21.90 by 16. That would give you the total amount for the masking tape 1/2 inch. You do the same thing for the masking tape 1.5 inch. You do the same thing for the 11 boxes of reflective tape. You'd multiply it by what the quantity is, and that would give you your total amount. And then your total amount would be added up, and that would give you your invoice subtotal. So you would add all the amounts up. That would give your invoice subtotal, which would be right here. So again, you're going to multiply this number by how many cases? So 2190 by 16, 2679 by 12, 8856 by 11, and then you'd write the answers in here as you did. And then you would add all these up, and that would give you your total here, right? And then in this case, there's some additional shipping charges. So your shipping charges were additional $61.45. That would have to be added. And then that would give you your total at the bottom. Now, there's a little blank line here because this is where your supplier might say, we're going to give you a 25% discount because you bought all these things in bulk. So we're going to give you a 25% discount off of your total order. So if that's the case, you could multiply that by 0.25, subtract the difference, and that would give you your total invoice amount. Or you could also just multiply it by 75%, because if they're going to give you a 25% discount, that means you're going to be paying 75% of the total. And so you can multiply your invoice subtotal. Well, actually, after you add the shipping charges, multiply your subtotal by 0.75, and that would give you your total invoice amount that you owe. Okay. So this is just basic, common sense mathematics. Notice they give you a net 30-day term. That means they're going to give you 30 days to pay that total amount. Now, this is where cash discounts come in, because sometimes they'll actually have 30 days, but they might have something like 15/10 and then end 30. What that means is that you get a 15% discount if you pay it within 10 days of the invoice date. So the invoice date is June 16th. So if you add 10 days to that, it would be June 26th. If you pay it by June 26th, you get an additional 15% off. So that could be some incentive to pay it early. So this is trade and cash discounts. Trade discounts are percentages off bulk purchases. Cash discounts are discounts, additional cash discounts based on terms that the invoice states. So these are the kind of problems that we're going to be working at. By the way, there's many different terms, not just what I showed you. One's called receipt of goods, one's called end of month. And so these are different terms that you would then calculate your cash discount by. But we'll come back to that. First thing we're going to look at here is we're going to open up our first page on trade and cash discounts. So again, when you're dealing with trade discounts, you're going to be dealing with what's called your list price. That is how much it costs, the known retail price of an item. We often call that the manufacturer's suggested retail price or list price. Then you're going to have your rate, which whatever the discount is going to be presented in terms of a discount rate, a percentage usually. And then you're going to have your discount amount. So how much off of the actual amount off of the list price are you getting? So it would be, again, the rate multiplied by the list price would give you your discount amount or your portion, very similar to the portion. And then your net price is the price you pay after you deduct the discount from the list price, right? So basically you have your list price times the rate gives you your discount amount. And then your discount amount is going to be subtracted from the list price. That's going to give you your net price. So those are terms you need to be familiar with and what they mean. Net price is what you actually pay. So back to our invoice for a second on the other page. If we were to add all of this up and then we, total, and then we get the 25% discount off of that, and then we'd have a new total. That new total would basically be your net price. That's after all the discounts were given. That would be your net price. So that's what we're going to be kind of figuring out is these kinds of problems. So looking at the first one, if the above invoice, which is the one that we just had, offered a 25% discount, what would be the net price owed? Well, I did do the math on it, and the math came out to $4,415.25. But then we had to add the $61.45 shipping costs. So the total came out to $4,476.57. So that was the total invoice, but they're going to give me a 25% discount, right? So again, I could use my fancy formula, 4,466.57 times 0.25. And that's going to give me my discount amount. So if I do the math on that, I don't know if I did that or not. I think I did. I did. That came out to $1,119.14. So that's how much of a discount I got off of the 4,476.57. So then what would the net price owed be? Well, then I would have to take my 4,476.57 and I would minus the 1,119.14. And that gave me a nice, beautiful net price of $3,357.43. So that's how much that invoice actually was now going to cost me. And I had 30 days to pay the $3,257. But I saved almost, $1,100. I saved over $1,100 because they gave me that discount right off the bat. So another way to look at this, just to help you out, and I'm probably jumping ahead, and I shouldn't, but I will, is the other thing that you can do here is you could also use what's called the net price formula. So rather than the discount amount or portion formula, we're going to find net price. So again, we would take the 44.76.57. It's the same formula, but instead this time we're going to do 1 minus the rate. So if the rate was 25%, we're going to do 0.75%. So if I do 1 minus the rate and I multiply 4,476.57 by 0.75, it's going to come out to $3,357.43. All I did by taking what we call the complement of the discount, 0.75 in this case, 1 minus the rate, is I built basically, remember I told you whatever your discount is, you're paying the opposite, right? So I'm actually paying 75% of it. That gives me my net price. So this would be the net price formula. It would be 1 minus the rate instead of just the rate. We'll come back to that when we get to this a little bit later. So that's how you figure out a single trade discount. And that next problem, gifts galore. A retail gift shop purchases, buys merchandise with a list price of $7,600. So that's typically always going to be your base. And then from a wholesaler at a novelty item store, the wholesaler extends a 30% trade discount to the retailer. So they're going to give me 0.30. I'm going to multiply those together. So the first thing is they want to know, what's the answer? They want to know the amount of the trade discount. They don't care about the net price. They just want to know the amount of discount. So I could literally do this. So they're looking for the portion or the amount, discount amount. So I would take 7,600 times it by 0.30. That means they're going to give me a $2,280 discount. So that is my discount amount, DA. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to know what was the amount of the discount, trade discount. So it was $2,280. That was my discount amount. All right, the above gives you the discount amount. In order to find the net price, you need to subtract the discount amount from the list price, right? So in this case, if I wanted to find out, what if they asked me, well, then what did I actually pay? What is my net price? Well, I would take my 7,600. I would minus my 2,280. And that would come out to, what does it come out to? 53.20. So that means I actually paid on a $7,600 purchase, I actually paid 53.20. Now, again, I could use the net price formula that I was showing you guys earlier in the last problem, and I could do 1 minus the rate. So if it was a 30% discount, I can multiply it by 70, and that's going to give me the net price here. That would come out to 53.20. So that's the other option. I can use the net price. So that's what we call down here the complement method. Using the complement of the rate or the opposite rate, for instance, if your discount was 30%, your complement would be 70. It'd be 100 minus 30 equals 70. If you use the complement, you can find the net price. Now, again, remember I told you when you have a discount, your discount is how much you're going to be getting off. And if the discount is 30% off, that means I'm still going to be paying 70% of the total. So that's all you're doing is you're using the complement, and that gets you your net price. So now I don't have to do this step of math if it's asking for the net price. If it's asking for the discount amount, then I just want to use the rate, and I want to find out what is the discount they're going to give me. But if they ask for the net price, I can subtract the rate from 1, and that would give me my net price in my answer. So that's what we say here. If you multiply the list price by the complement of the discount rate, that will automatically give you net price without having to subtract the discount amount. So again, looking at the problems above. So we'll go to the next page, and hopefully this will make sense if it doesn't already. So that was page number 3. Here we are on page 3. All right, so panoramic products offered a 25% discount. The complement of that would be 75%. So if the list, this is the one that we were looking at the very beginning with the invoice. If you multiply the list price by 75%, you would get the net price. And then the second problem, since Gifts Galore offers a 30% trade discount, if you want to simply find the net price, you would multiply the list price by the complement of 30%, which was 70%, or 1 minus 30. that would automatically give you your net price. So finding the trade discount rate is the next section. So how do I know what rate I'm going to get? And this is pretty simply, you need to divide the trade discount amount by the list price. So again, using the formula that we've been doing, the discount amount here and then the list price here, if I divide those two, that's going to give me my rate. All right, so Wilson Sporting Goods recently sold tennis rackets for $109,000 to the Sports Authority. The net price of the order was $6,300. What is the amount of the trade discount? So they're looking for the amount. And what is the trade discount rate? Round your answers to the nearest 10th percent. So $109,000 was what they originally paid for, but they got a net price. They actually bought them for $63,000. So that came out to a $46,200 discount that they were given. But we want to know, well, what rate of discount was that? Well, again, I would then take remember the rate of change formula that we use? We would divide that by the original amount, $109,500, and that gave us the answer of 0.4219 or 42.2%. Again, when we were doing this before, we were using the formula. We had the discount amount of $46,200. That would be the discount amount. That's the difference between the two. And then we would take the $109,500. We divide those two, and what we'll find in the answer it was 4219 or 42.2%. All right, that's just using the discount amount or the portion formula. But again, I'm not going to throw this on you yet. I'll wait. So that's pretty much all you're solving. So if we were to solve the rest of these problems here down the bottom, they're looking for both the trade discount and the discount rate. So again, if I just want to find the trade discount, I can simply multiply these. This is my list price, $860 times 30%. I didn't actually do any of these, but if I wanted to, it would be $860 times 0.30. That's going to give me a discount amount of $258. So it means I saved $250 by being given a 30% discount. If the next one, $48.75 was the price of my invoice, and they gave me a 19% trade discount. Sorry, I'm gonna do it again. Times 0.19 equals, so they gave me a $7.93 discount off of each one of those. If I had $134.79 purchase that I had, and they gave me a 40% discount, that means I would save $53.92 on each one. So you could go through and you could do it that way. And again, all I'm doing is using the portion formula. I'm doing the list price times the rate. So that would give me the discount amount or portion. So same thing. But they're asking for the net price. So again, if I was going to do the net price, I would just simply subtract the discount amount from the list price. So $860 minus $258 equals $602. So I paid $602 instead of $860. Instead of paying $41.75, I paid $33.82. Again, I could solve and not have to do the math on these. If I just want to find list price, I'll do it on the next one. So the last one, let's just do the list price in the last one. So if I want to do the list price, I could use the list price formula, which I'll show you later. I could take my 2129, this is the last problem here, and I multiply that by 1 minus the rate. Remember I told you to get net price. So if I do 1 minus 3, if it's 45%, then 1 minus 45 would be 0.55. So if I multiply 2129 times 0.55, the complement, that gives me $11.71. So that would have been my list price here. So I bought them for $21.29. They gave me a 45% discount. So my net price is, I actually paid $11.71. So I didn't have to even find the discount amount between those two because I used the net price formula, which again, all I do is I minus the rate from 1, and that will give me the net price. Because again, the discount is what I'm being discounted, but the remainder is what I'm actually paying. So all you're doing is saying, well, if I'm getting a 45% discount, that means I'm paying 55% of the total amount. So all I did was multiply it by 55%. That gave me my new net price. All right, I hope that makes sense. You guys following me in this so far?
Yes.
All right, there's a few more I'm not going to do. This one's asking you for the complement rate on this page. So all they're doing is asking you, okay, if this is the trade discount rate, right? And I'm going to do the complement rate, or in this case, the net price rate. If I'm getting a 30% discount, then I would just minus that from 1. That means I'm going to actually pay a 70% discount, or I'm actually going to pay 70% of the original price. If I'm giving a 19% discount, that means I'm going to be paying an 81% of the original amount, right? If I'm given a 40% discount rate, 1 minus 0.40 equals 0.60. So I'm going to be doing a 60% of the original amount because I'm given a 40% discount. If I'm given a 45% discount, which I just saw, I'm going to be paying 55% of the original amount. So all I would need to do now is multiply the original amount by the complement rate. That'll tell me what my net price is. Again, back to that formula that I showed you, the net price formula is that you do your list price times 1 minus the rate. That's going to give you your net price. And that's all we did here. We minused 1 from the rate. That gave us our complement rate. And then you multiply. So 860 for the first one times 0.70, because I'm only paying 70% now. My list price is 602. And that was the same thing we saw on the other page. I just did it differently on this one. It's the exact same problems, all 4 of them. All right, so that's finding the net price, or what we call the net price factor, which is nothing more than the complement, or 1 minus the original trade rate. So to find the amount of trade discount on the television set that has a list price of $799.95, they're asking me for what is the trade discount amount. So again, this is just going to be the discount amount formula. That's what they're looking for. So I'm not going to do anything to the rate. I'm going to take my $799.95, multiply by the rate, and that's going to give me $799.95 times 0.30. Oops. Let's see. 799.95 times 0.30 equals. So I'm going to get a discount amount of $239.99. So that was my discount amount. Looking for these problems. So there we go. Yeah. So $239.99. That's all they're asking for, a discount amount. And you might say, well, what was the net price then? Well, again, I would just deduct the discount they gave me, and that would give me the net price. And the net price in this case would be, I don't know, I don't want to do the math, but it would be that, or I could have used the net price formula and I just would have subtracted the rate from 1. That would have been 0.70, and that would give me also then my net price. All right, next problem. What is the amount of trade discount on 45% of the dining room set that lists at $395? So again, this is just looking for the discount amount, so, or the portions. So $395.50 times the rate, 0.45. That's going to give it to me. It comes out to $177.98. That is the amount of discount I'm going to get. If I want to find out what the net price is, I would subtract 177.98 from $398.50, and that would give me my net price. But I actually paid. All right, with an item with a trade discount of 40% has a list price of $289. Again, same problem. $289.50 times the rate, 0.41. That's going to give me my discount amount. Oh, but this one's asking for the net price. So we'll do that one, right? So that's going to give me, let's see. Yeah, it's going to give me 1 $118.66. That's the discount amount, and then I would subtract that from 289.50, 118. What is it? 66 comes out to $170.80. So that's my answer, 170. Or in this case, I could have used the net price formula. So 289.50 times 1 minus the rate. So if the rate was 41, it would be 59. And that would give me my net price. Are you guys following me on that? I keep switching back and forth. I just don't want to confuse anybody. Right, Nathan and David's beauty salon places an order for beauty supplies from the wholesaler. The list price is $2,800. The vendor offers a 46% trade discount. What is the net price of the order? So I think I have to go to the next page, but I think I'm just going to erase everything on this page and just do it here. So again, we're going to just go right to net price this time. So 2,800 times 1 minus the rate, because that's how we get the net price. And the rate is 46. So what would that be? 40 or 54? So that's what it's going to be, 0.54. And that's going to give me my list price or net price. So 2,800 times 0.54. It's going to be $1,512. So that is my net price. Now, again, just so I don't confuse anybody, I could have first found the discount amount by just multiplying the list price by the rate, 46. That would have given my discount amount. And then I could have subtracted the discount amount from the list price, and that would have given me my net price. But I avoided that by subtracting my rate from 1 and multiplying that. That gave me my net price. All right, I think we're wrapping up here. All right, now we get into exercises finding the rate. So we know, using the same formula, we know the net price. In this case, we're going to know the list price, but we want to know, well, what rate of a discount did they get? So for instance, this first problem says a watch has a list price of $889 and can be bought by Sterling Jewelers for a net price of $545.75. So one way we can figure it out is to, of course, just do the math and subtract to find the discount amount. How much of a discount did they get? So if I do the math on that, let's see if I have that one done. I do. So we come out to $343.25. So that is our discount amount. That's how much we got. So again, we could simply go, we were still trying to find the rate. So we could take the discount amount, which is $343.25. We can divide that by the original amount. What was the original amount? $889. We divide those two, that would give us the rate. So that comes out to 38.3861, or the same thing as saying 38.6%. So that was our trade discount rate, is we had 38.6% discount is what we got on our $889 watch, because we only really spent our net price of $545.75. We get a 38.6% discount. So all I did was I figured out first the difference between the two, and then I did took the difference and I divided it by the original. Remember, we talked about this with rate of change, and that told me the rate of change. There's another thing I could throw in here, but I'm not going to do it. So, all right, next question. Matthew Sterling factoring cell tools to the American Garden Supply. In a recent transaction, the list price of the order was $47,750. And the net price of the order was $32,100. So first thing I'm going to do here is minus find the difference. between the two. So the difference comes out to 15,650. And then I would just put that in my little triangular. Divide those two because I'm trying to find my rate. So 15,650 divided by 47,750 comes out to point, let's see. Let's do the math again. It should come out to 0.3277. Let me double check that though. 15,650 divided by 47,750 equals 32.77. Yep. So that comes out to 32.7 or 32.8%. So that's the difference. So the trade discount rate was 32.8%. All right, I'm not going to throw the other monkey wrench into it yet. So that's solving for the rate. Now we're going to be talking about cash discounts. So that's pretty much it on your trade discounts. So you're going to be solving either for the list price, the net price, the discount amount, or the rate. And so I gave you multiple ways to do that in that explanation. And so that's what you'll be solving for. And there's a few problems right off the bat on your check-in assignment on that. Now we get into cash discounts. So in cash discounts, we are dealing with a few very important items. And this is, again, the invoice that I showed you at the beginning. I showed you, I'm going to go back there for a second because I want to just reference this. So remember I said to you there's terms here. So this would be a typical PO order that you would fill out. We had done all the math on that earlier. But these are the terms. So a few things you want to be aware of when it comes to cash discounts is you have the invoice date, which is very important, right? Then you have your terms right here. That's also very important. Then you have, again, we had your list prices, which would be here for each of the items, and your list price here. Then you have your discounts and all that. Then you have your net price. All those are the same, but these terms here are what change the most. So you always need to be aware of the invoice date and the terms because everything is built around those two things as far as what kind of discounts you get. So I'm going to go back to chapter 7. I think we're here. All right. So you have invoice dates, you have cash discounts, you have terms of sale, you have discount period. So this is how many days that you have in order to get a discount. And then you have your credit period, how many days you have until you have to pay it off. And then you have your due date, when's the invoice absolutely due. And then you have these other two terms, receipt of goods and end of month terms. And we'll explain all those in this segment of our chapter 7 discussion. So the first thing is cash discounts. So let's just say for the above invoice, this one here, the date was March 5th. That was the invoice date. And they're saying that you're going to get and the invoice amount was $12,000. So if the invoice date is March 15th, according to these terms right here, now this is saying that they're going to get a 3% discount for the first 15 days. After the 15 days, they can't get a 3% discount. Remember, I told you this is incentive for you to pay it off a little early because you get an additional discount. It's also incentive to the company to give you that discount because they're getting their money a little sooner, so everybody's happy. So these terms that are listed here, 3, 15, and 30, means that you get a 3% discount if you pay it within 15 days of the invoice. And regardless, the entire invoice is due in 30 days. N30 means net 30. You have 30 days to pay it. That could say net 45. That could say N60. That means you have 45 days to pay it. You have 60 days paid. It could say ROG N30, receipt of goods, and then you have 30 days, etc. So I'll explain all those in a minute. But that's how you read these terms. So this one particularly says 3% in 15 days. So if the invoice was dated March 5th, the discount period for that first little block would be 15 days. So that would be March 20th, right? So March 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, count 15 days. I got 15 days in which to get the discount. So as long as I pay it by March 20th, I'll get 3% off my invoice. If I pay the invoice on March 19th, I'll get 23% off. So here's where we're looking at it. So I got it, the invoice amount was $12,425. I got a 3% discount off of that. So I got a $372.75 discount. That's something, right? So I subtract that from the invoice amount. Now my new net amount is $12,052.25. So that would be due on 30 days. So 15 days expired March 20th. So then I can add another 15 days to that. So that would be March 30th. How many days are in March? 31 days. So I have 31 days. So I can minus 31. Let's see. Sorry. I can minus 11. So that would leave 4 days. So if I have 4 days into April, so April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, April 4th. So it would be due on 4/4. And by the way, when you start getting into these, what day is it due? There are a few questions around that. Just make sure best way to do it, in my opinion, is pull out a calculator and look at the months. How many months? If you got 30 days, count the 30 days and then pick the date. There is some mathematical ways to do it in the book, which are extremely confusing. I recommend just using a calendar and physically counting the days. So to get the due date. So next question, rugs.com buys merchandise with an invoice amount of $16,000 from Karsten Carpets. The terms of the sale are 210 and 30. What is the amount of the cash discount they're going to get, and what is the net amount due on this order if the bill is paid on the 10th day? All right. So 2 and 10, that means 2% for the first 10 days. Did it give us? It didn't give us the. It doesn't really matter. It's not really mattering what the due date is, just that we have 10 days. It says it got paid on the 10th day, so they're going to get the 2% discount. So if I take 16,000 and I times it by 2%, that's going to give me my discount amount. Let's see if I can find that here. So that comes out to $320. So $320 is what I'm going to be discounted. So 16,000 minus 320 equals $15,680. So that is my invoice amount due. So that's one way to do it. Now you might say, well, is there a faster way, not having to do the math? I can actually calculate how much is going to be due on that day, but with the discount by simply taking the complement. Remember how I told you whatever your discount is, the remaining amount is what you'll actually be paying. So 1 minus 0.02 equals 0.98. So if I multiply the 16,000 by 98, it's going to give me my total invoice amount. I could do it that way too. I didn't have to do the math of subtracting it. I just did it here in the calculation. Valiant Plumbing orders sinks from a supplier. The sink has a net price of $8,300. In terms of the sale are 3% in 15 days. N45 means I have up to 45 days to pay the whole thing. But what if I paid the full amount on the 15th day? How much would I owe? Well, I could take 2 ways I can do it. I can take the 3% and do it that way. 8,300 times 3% is 249. Or I can do the 8,300. I'd have to subtract that, then subtract that from the 8,300. That's going to give me a total of 8,051. That's how much I would owe. Or I could just multiply this by 1 minus 03 or 0.97. That's going to give me 8,051. So I could do it that way too. All right, so those are what we call cash discounts. You just figure out how much of a discount you're going to get. And that's all you're figuring out on those. Let's see, is this the next one? All right. Okay, now we get into a tricky question. It's basically partial payments. So sometimes people pay a portion of their, let's see if this is one I even want to do. I think I took it out. I did. So I'm not going to even do that one. We're just going to jump down to this one here. So partial payments within a discount period. So partial payment is, again, the problem below says they have a purchase of $45,300, but on May 5th, on these terms, but then they make a partial payment of $20,000 on the discount date. So how much credit will be given for the partial payment, and what is this net amount still due? So again, our invoice is $45,300. We have terms of 4 and 15, so they get 4% discount if they pay within 15 days, and it's due in 45. All right, so they want to first, what they want to figure out is how much of a discount do they get. So in this case, we're going to figure out our partial payments a little bit differently because we're going to do it. We're going to basically take the 20,000, and then we're going to take 1 minus the rate, which in this case we said the rate was 4%. So we're going to do 1 minus the rate, which is going to be 96%. That's what we're going to divide it by. So we're going to figure out how much of our payment do we get credited. So it comes out, if you divide those two, it comes out to $20,883.33. So all I'm doing is figure out what is my partial payment worth as a credit based off of the discount amount, because I'm not going to get a discount on the whole thing, right? I'm only going to be getting a discount on the 20,000. So I have to figure out that, and it basically becomes a credit of 20,883, and then I would subtract that. That's my partial payment, and that's going to give me a total of $24,466.67. So that's what I still owe on day 45. So my partial payment was given a discount, and that's but rather than creating a discount and subtracting it from the 45,300, I added that discount to the $20,000 payment. Same thing, and it brought it down to 24,460. So it's very important when you're doing the partial payments that you calculate the payment as a credit rather than as a discount, and you credit your payment by doing it in the way I just showed you. You basically take the partial payment, and there's a formula for this right here. Partial payment divided by 100% minus the cash discount. So this was minus 0.04. So it came out to 0.96, and I divided 0.96 by 20,000. That came out to a credit of 20,883. I subtracted that from my list price, and that gave me my new total of what I owed. Now, there's no more discounts available on this one, but sometimes there's multiple discounts. There's one on day 15. There's another one, maybe a 2% on day 25 or something like that. So you'd have to figure it again if you did a partial payment on that date. All right, so that is cash discounts and partial payments. Now we're going to move into various terms. So there's another problem here, so we'll do this one first. It says Red Tag Furniture received Sealand container of sofas from Thailand on April 14th, so that's important. The invoice was dated March 2nd. This is a new one. And it was for $46,250 in merchandise and $21.65 in shipping charges. The terms of the agreement were 3 and 15, and then ROG. So this is where we're going to be doing ROG, and there's a partial payment. So we have a lot going on here. So on April 27th. All right, so it's not going to be, the invoice is dated March 2nd, but because it's receipt of goods, you don't start calculating your time until you've received the goods. That's what ROG means. So if they received the goods on April 14th, that's the date that everything hinges on, not March 2nd. So April 14th is the day that it starts to count down, and you get a 3% discount in 15 days. So from April 14th, add another 15 days, that's my partial payment period, which the 14th plus 5, I think, comes out to the 29th. So it's 4/29 is when my discount period ends. But they made a payment on the 27th. So they want to know, what does the net amount due and what is the net date? So when is this absolutely due? When it's receipt of goods, it's always N30. So it's 30 days after the receipt of goods. So the discount period is 15 days. But the receipt of goods, but the actual due date is 30 days later. So they're asking you, what is the net date? When's it due? So again, if we had April 14th, and we're going to add 30 days to it, I would just get out my calculator and start counting the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That's 26 days in is the 30th of April, but then we have March, April, May. So May 1st, May 2nd, May 4th, May 5th, May 6th, May 7th, May 8th, May 9th, May 10th, May 11th, May 12th, May 13th, May 14th, May 15th. It's May 15th. So 5/15 will be 30 days later. Because April only had 14 days. So there you go. What is the net amount due? Well, we have to figure out the partial payment first. So we have 15,000. Remember, we use the partial payment formula. So it's 1 minus the rate. The rate in this case is 3%. So that would mean it is 97%. 0.97, we would divide those two together. 15,000 divided by 97 comes out to 15,463.92. That is the amount of credit that they're going to get. Again, we owed 46,230 plus the shipping. We have to add that to it. The 2165 gave me a new total of 48,395, but I get to minus the 15,463.92. That's going to give me my new invoice amount, which is going to be $32,931.08. So that's what I owe on the due date, which is May 15th. All right, so when you do receipt of goods, just make sure you count your days from when you receive the goods. That's the trick, right? Great Impressions Printing buys ink from a supplier. The invoice date of the purchase was June 11th. If the terms of the sale are 410 and N60, what is the discount date and the net date of the invoice? So they're just asking you for the dates in this one. There's no math involved. So if it's June 11, and we're saying 10 days, right? So that would be June 21st would be when it's due. That's your discount period. So that would be your discount period, because it's 4% in 10 days. And then N60. So N60. So that's 21 days, or that's 10 days. I have 50 more days to account for. So from June 21st, get your calendar out, open it up, and start counting all of the due dates, and it comes out to 8/10 when we're all done. So August 10th is when it's due. There's a few questions like that, but they're not too many. The last one is a little more complicated, and it's really not as complicated as it may seem when I start to first talk about it. But basically, this is called end of month terms, and all that it means is that they're trying to give the purchaser a little more time to pay for their invoice. And so end of month terms are basically that if the date of the invoice is on or before the 25th, then you're going to start your terms at the beginning of the next month. But if your invoice is dated after the 25th, so the 26th and beyond, then it's going to be, the terms are going to start on the month after the next month. So for instance, if I look at the example given, says what are the discount date and net date of an invoice dated November 18th with the terms 3/15 end of month. So again, is it the 25th or before? Then my terms start at the beginning of the next month. So if it's November 18th, it's before the 25th of November. That means starting December 1st, my terms begin, and it's 3/15. So that means that my due date for my discount period would be 12/15. That is the end of it. And then, by the way, it's not spoken here, but unless otherwise specified, the net amount is 20 days due after the discount date. So in this case, my discount period ends on 12/15, but then I have another 20 days to pay my invoice, which comes out to Christmas Day, right? Actually, no, I take that back. December 15th plus 20 would be 1/4, because there's 31 days in December. I forgot I was adding 10 more days, not 20. So that brings you to January 4th. That means that everything would be due on January 4th. So 12/15 plus 20 days brings you to January 4th, because there's 31 days in December. You can't miss the 31 days. All right, that's end of month terms. I think we have one more to go over. Or was that it? Oh, yeah. So what are the discount date and net date of an invoice dated November 27th? That's the one I just did. So again, and what about an invoice dated August 21st with terms 4/18? So in 18 days, end of month, you get it. So again, this was November 27th. Sorry, this is a new problem. This is after, notice it's after the 25th of the month. So it wouldn't be the beginning of December, it would be the beginning of January that your terms start. So your terms would start 1/1, which means your discount period would be 1/15. And then plus 20 days after that would be your the remainder of your period, which brings you to February 4th. So that's the difference. It's after the 25th of the month, then you start at not the next month, but the following month. So if it's November 25th or later, you wouldn't start in December, you'd start in January with your term. So your term starts 1/15, 1/1, which means that your discount period, the 3/15, your 15 days would be January 15th. And then again, it's unspoken, but it's 20 days later that your invoice is due, which would be February 4th. So that's how you figure out end of month. It's always going to be either the beginning of the next month, if it's before the 25th. If it's after the 25th, it's going to be the beginning of the month after the next month. That's when your terms start. So an invoice is dated August 21st. That's before the 25th, right? You get 4% discount in 18 days. What is the discount date? So it would be August 24th, so 8/21 plus 18 days. So I would get my calculator out or my calendar out. I would count all the days, and it comes out to 9/18 because it's end of month term. Sorry. So it starts, my bad. I jumped ahead. 8/21. That means that the terms start on 9/1. And that's 18 days. So 9/18 is the due date. And then from 9/18 plus 20, that gives us 10/8 as the actual date that the invoice is due. All right, receipt of goods we already covered. I don't know why that's in here again. And then there is another one called extra dating. And all that is exactly what we've been talking about, but you go 60 extra days. So in this case, the 60 extra means that you get 10 days to pay your invoice for 20 days and then an extra 60 days. So basically it's a total of 70 days. You can read that, and that's really what's happening here. This is actually 20, but because this was 10, but so basically in this case, what would the discount date and the net date be for February 22nd with the terms extra? You would have your discount period 20 days later. So February 22nd plus 20, whatever that comes out to. So February has 26 days, depending on the year, right? So you'd only get, let's just say it has 26, so you'd get 4 more days. So then you would get 16 days into the month of March. So this would be 3/16. That would be your discount, but then you get another 60 days. That's what extra means to that. So 60 days more after the discount period versus before when it was N30, you included the discount period. In this case, it's extra, so you don't have to include it in the discount period. So you're getting really a total of 80 days. You're getting 20 for the discount period and then 60 for the extended. So that's all you need to do on those, but that's pretty much for chapter 7. You only need to know how to calculate those things. Probably the hardest one was the partial payment. Just make sure you use the partial payment formula to make sure that you've calculated your credit correctly for your partial payment and deduct that from your invoice total, and that's going to give you your new net price or your new net amount. So that's it for these chapters. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. You guys